Podcasters Roundtable, round 91, recording remote podcast guests and or co-hosts. Something we're doing right now. I'll get into that in a second. But how do you connect and record podcasts with guests or co-hosts? Maybe both. Again, what we're doing right now. But who guests and co-hosts who are not in the same studio. Remote is an important part of this. It's another discussion to do it in studio with other people as well. But do you use Skype, Hangouts? Do you do double enders? Always sounds weird. There are so many ways to do it, but what's worked for you? What hasn't worked for you? I think we have all of those experiences. I think with each of these, there's always something that doesn't quite work. But that's what we're going to find out from really a whole bunch of new roundtablers today. So let's meet the roundtable. Welcome back, co-host Daniel J. Lewis.
Thank you very much. I'm getting enough sleep. Everyone seems to ask me that question. Are you getting enough sleep with the baby? Yes, I am getting enough sleep.
For now. See, that what happens is that'll come around. If you're lucky enough to have a baby that sleeps, then you're going to have a 2-year-old who refuses to sleep. And if neither of those things happen, then I just hate you. Then That's how you get another baby. When the baby sleeps, you get more babies. That's what happens.
So 2 years from now, I'll be coming back and saying, I can't sleep.
We'll see. Your eyes will look more like mine with these nice bags going on. Dave Jackson, welcome back, co-host.
Yeah, Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting.com. I'm not getting enough sleep, but that's just because I just, I like to do show notes at 1:30 in the morning.
You're grinding, man. You're grinding.
I'm grinding it. Yeah.
You're taking the Gary Vee approach, the work till your eyeballs bleed.
That's it.
I like it. Dave's getting stuff done. All right. Well, new roundtabler. Mike, welcome to your first roundtable.
I know. I feel like I've been called to the Jedi Council of podcasters tonight. So this is pretty exciting for me. My name's Mike, and I do a Star Wars podcast called the Cantina Cast. And Daniel, I never sleep anyway, so it doesn't matter. I'm always worried about downloads and everything else under the sun with the podcasting stuff. So, I'm like a vampire. So,
hence the reference there, Cantina Cast. All right, I like it.
Yes.
All right, and new roundtabler Scott, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm Scott Smith with the Recovering from Religion podcast, and I think sleep is really non-productive.
It is. That's interesting theory. We could probably do a whole roundtable on that. But I mean, is everyone jealous of Scott's audio?
I am super jealous.
How far away are you from that microphone? You don't even look close to it.
About 5 inches, I'd say.
Really? It's that close? You got to love wide angle lenses. Like, it just looks like he's so far away. Well, it sounds fantastic. He's got a cool looking studio there. So if you want to see that, you definitely want to go to youtube.com/podcasters roundtable. That is the YouTube channel just for this podcast, or this podcast recorded live on YouTube. However you want to say it. There's an audio only version as well, podcastersroundtable.com. Do that plus /guests. You can sign up to be a new roundtabler and join us. Be part of the Jedi Council. Come on.
Yes, exactly.
I feel like someone's going to come to the door and slash us all to bits.
Well, that would be no, we don't want that.
All right. So we may have a couple more people join us, but until then, let's move forward. Now, of course, as I mentioned, stumbled over my own words in the beginning, we are bringing in remote guests and co-hosts right here on the roundtable. I have different systems for doing that, whether you're watching on YouTube, which you're doing right now if you're watching this live, or you're listening to the audio-only podcast. So for YouTube, it's just Hangouts on Air, and it works great for remote guests. It's very easy. I can bring anyone in, give them a link, they come in, and we're off and running. And then it ends up on YouTube, a little more compressed. It's not as quality once it gets there. So for the audio-only podcast version, you probably know this if you've listened to any of these rounds, but I capture the audio from the Hangouts on Air in real time. So that provides actually better than, there was some research done on it, testing. It's better than 96 kilobits per second. From what I know, from my ears, I can tell that. And the audio is recorded into an audio recorder, and I record my own channel separately, and then I bring those together in post-production. And it all goes, like I said, from capturing it real time, because that's where your better audio quality is. And once it goes to YouTube, it gets compressed further. It's not as good. Some people have tried using Hangouts on Air and ripping the audio out. It's not as good, but it can work. I've certainly used it in a pinch on this podcast. And you can see that set up in more detail at youtube.com/Ray Ortega. But this has worked great for this podcast. You can increase the quality of the audio by going into studio mode, which we joked with Scott in the pre-show, but his audio is so good, we're like, don't touch it because it can create issues, feedback issues. I'm actually in studio mode right now. We're not having an echo issue, but you got to be careful for that. It was really something that was designed for music, not so much for dialogue. So it does some weird things with stereo routing, and it's a rabbit hole you can fall down. But anyways, so that's what we use for this show. Ryan, what do you have remote interviewees or co-hosts or both? Ryan.
We don't have
sorry, Mike. What?
Mike,
Ryan,
me. Oh,
Ryan is one of the other people that's not here. Oh,
That's okay. It happens. But well, actually, what we do is we do a double ender. We get on Google Chats because it sounds better to us than Skype for whatever reason. Skype has always been a nightmare for us, so we get on Google and do it that way. And then he records his track, I record my track, and we don't really have guests on that much. But every show is really us being remote in a sense because he's in Indiana, I'm in Rhode Island, so each show is like, that's how it is. We're remoted in and we just talk and go from there. So he records his track where there's no problems, and I record my track and there's no problems. However, Google Hangouts can give you problems as well. Like you said with switching to studio, I've run into that because I see it. You're like, oh, whoa, this will make me better and all this other stuff. You click on that and then you get all your problems and stuff. So that's how we typically do it. We sometimes have guests come on for our character dissections and stuff like that. So he typically records me and the guest on, and I have to edit all that fun stuff and whatnot. But I've been trying Zencastr lately, although it worked for one episode that we did. We had Adam, he's like a psychologist. He comes on and he talks with us about the characters and stuff, and it worked great the first time. The second time was a complete disaster. I don't know if it was on his end because he lives in the boondocks somewhere, and his internet isn't all that great. So we had a lot of glitches with that, and we got frustrated. So we don't have typically a lot of guests come on, and that's how that started. When we first started, I tried the mixer, I tried this, I tried that. Things wouldn't work, and I got frustrated. So I said, all right, here's what we're going to do. We'll just get on, I'll record my end, you record your end, and keep it simple. Because I always find the simpler way is the best way to go. And that's how we do it now, although we want more guests to come on. So we got to change things and evolve as we go further. And maybe I'll give Zencastr another try and kind of see how that works. But, there's other options as well. We kind of, duct tape and bubble gum it every time we do a podcast. So that's how we do it currently.
KISS. Anyone know what that stands for? Mike hinted, keep it simple, stupid.
Yes. Yes.
But nothing simple. I mean, even doing a double ender is not necessarily simple, but it is the best way, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, if you're recording locally, assuming someone knows how to record, assuming they have the space for it, of course, that's not going to translate in a remote situation as well if they don't have good mic and a decent space to record in. But, if you don't know how to record it, it's maybe not going to sound as good if you have someone else handling it. So double enders are great. You mentioned Zencastr. That's sort of a way to do a double ender. It is a way to do a double ender. And we'll talk a little bit more about that and that type of option. But raise your hand. I realize we're an audio podcast. If you're listening, raise your hand if you are on team Skype sucks. We got Mike with his hand up, which we knew. Scott, he's halfway there, which I think is pretty much the experience. It's like sometimes yes, sometimes no, right? So Scott, or are you bringing in guests or do you have co-hosts or both?
I do have a co-host, Emily, and most of the time, the two of us interview someone remotely, and 80% of the time it is over Skype because that's what most people are familiar with. With our Skype recorder, we've had to completely redo 2 interviews so far because the meter within Skype recorder says green, which means I think it's a clean recording, right? But when we play back the recording, every other word is clipping.
So wait, what are you using to record?
That was a Skype recorder.
Just is called Skype Recorder. That's a Windows based.
Well, Windows or Mac, it just kind of comes with Skype, and you just hit a button and it records.
Wait, it doesn't. Wait, who knows what this is?
I think you're using Skype for Business then, right?
I don't think it's called. I know it's Skype Recorder.
Skype doesn't have built-in recording, not that unless Dave, like you're saying,
Skype,
the business.
Skype for Business has a built-in recorder.
Okay, maybe it is that.
Interesting. But so you're saying that the meter is not giving you an accurate reading.
Correct, because the meter said green, thinking it's a real clean recording, And it turns out every other word was clipping, and we had to redo the whole thing. So we kind of learned our lesson the hard way twice, not once, but twice. So we don't use Skype Recorder anymore. Right now, I record right into Audacity, and that works pretty well. I also have a backup recorder with my mixing board. It's an SD card, so that's a good backup.
There you go. The backup is the key, right?
Right. And not everyone uses Skype. If you're a podcaster, you probably do. But if you're having a guest on, maybe they do, maybe they don't. So we've had to experiment. We've done interviews with Facebook call, and that works about as well as Skype. People are familiar with that. And I've even had to do interviews over my cell phone and Bluetooth that into my mixing board, and that works pretty well too. But I definitely wouldn't recommend Skype Recorder.
Here's a question, you guys, for anyone. Phones are something we sometimes have to deal with, and it's not a big deal. Like, it's, get the interview if you can get the interview over phone. But when you call someone on a cell phone, I feel weird even saying cell phone these days. Like, what's the right to smartphone? Anyways, is the audio better than a traditional phone because it's maybe digital at some point? What's going on there?
Yes. I think, especially if you're calling from the same device to another device, sometimes they'll.
So like iPhone to iPhone, you're saying?
Yeah. Whenever I call my wife, because she has an iPhone now, I get a much better, clear signal, even though I'm just telling it, make a phone call. I'm not saying do a FaceTime audio call.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe it is actually doing a FaceTime audio call, but it rings like a regular call. So I think it's just the HD calling feature that's starting to be rolled out.
Yeah, I don't know because anytime I ever use a phone, it sounds like the phone. And I think I always heard it was just the actual, when you go through the phone lines, it automatically chops off the bass and it chops off the treble, and it's got a really thin. So I don't know if that's something like, I didn't know there was an HD phone thing anywhere, but
I have heard something about where it, like in Apple's case, if you're connecting up, there is something going on there that is making potentially the audio is a little better. So
nice.
I guess the lesson here is that there is a way, if they have a smartphone, it may be a better option. I don't know who has a landline these days. Certainly, I have a line outside my house. It doesn't go to anything. But
I would think the microphone in a smartphone is better than, this. Basically.
Oh, look at.
Oh, hey, wow! What's
at
that?
least we could dial 911.
That belongs in a museum.
That's right. It's a land.
Dave is a museum.
It's fun. I pay $10 a month for my cable phone, so I can save like $30 on my package. It's stupid. It's the cable company.
Dave, you do tons of interviews. What is your current method for getting interviewees into the podcast? Remote.
I've used them all, and I'm one of these guys that I don't have a problem with Skype. I think a lot of it has to depend on who you're calling and where they are.
I think it's still overall the best. It's funny all these years. I think Skype still wins generally. Yeah. But
so what I
you're alluding to the fact that it's different for everybody.
Yeah. So I use, as a backup, I have MP3 Skype Recorder. It's a free program for the PC. And I usually do not recommend free stuff, but I do not recommend Pamela. Pamela is awful. I've used a couple, and most of them have gone out of business because Skype kept updating their software and it kept breaking their stuff. So a lot of people just got out of the game. These people seem to update their software. And then I always have, again, some sort of backup. For me, I'm usually going into my mixer, then the mixer into Skype, and then I pull my guest into the mixer as well. And then that goes out to some sort of portable recorder somewhere. So I always have, no matter what I'm using, whether I'm using Skype or Cast or Zencaster or whatever, I always set it up so I have two recordings because, I've used Ringer. I love Ringer, but it crapped out on me once. I've used Zencaster. Zencaster crapped out on me once. Yeah, they've all crapped out on me once. So I always have two things going.
These days, what I do like, and I don't use them, I don't do a lot of interviews, and all the co-hosting's handled, as I mentioned up front. You're seeing it right now. But Zencaster and Cast, those are two things I always waited for a long time. They finally came out. In the beginning, they were never reliable enough to say, yep, use this, right? This is going to work for you every time. But from what I understand, these systems now, even if they crap out on you, they already have the recording. I don't know. Do you guys experience this? Is that supposed to be sort of fail-safe?
I have a woman who is petrified of technology that I help her with her podcast, and she uses Cast, which is at tryca.st.
Yes, TriCast, but it's
tryca.st.
oh yes.
Is that it?
CA.st. Come on, guys.
Exactly.
Come on.
And I had never had anybody have a problem with that system. I know a few people using it, and she was the first. And so they did have the Cast people worked with them to get the local recording off her computer, but then there was a huge just party putting those two things together, and there was a lot of drift where you kept having to. That's where somebody's recorded a little faster than the other person, so you have to constantly drag people's audio to the left or right to get them back in sync. So it was a party, and that was the first time I've heard of that system kind of taking going left to center for one.
Yeah, I mean, who else? Did someone else mention they'd use Zencastr before?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and it just for whatever reason it worked great the first time. I'm like, oh, great, finally the solution that I really needed, because we don't do a lot of interviews, as I said, but we'd like to bring people on every now and then to make things a little more interesting than just me and my co-host always talking Star Wars. So you got to mix it up every now and then. It worked great, and then I don't know if it was the Google Hangouts that was the problem, Zencastr was the problem, or our guest Adam. I don't know if it was him or if it was a combination of all three. I just couldn't figure it out. Like it looked like it was recording. It started, his mic would cut out, and then there'd be nothing. They wouldn't see any little bars going up or anything like that. It would just be silence. It was weird, and he would cut out, and we couldn't hear him in Google. We couldn't hear him in Zencastr. It was just horrible. So I don't know. I want to dive back in and try it and give it another shot. But you see all these new things that are coming out because I like to keep things simple. And I have hope. I'm like, yes, finally, it's going to be easy for me. And then, something like this happens. But that's the internet. That's what happens,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was a guest on another podcast, and they use Zencastr, and I really liked it. It worked great. So I signed up for it, and I could barely get a guest to sign on to it and connect.
Yeah.
When I did, only twice, it dropped within a minute or two. And I've heard other people had similar problems. And I also heard they were trying to work out some bugs. And on paper, that's probably the best option, even for $20 a month. You get multi-track recording, real good, high quality. But until they get the bugs worked out, I'm not going to get back into it. But, it's got potential. It's probably potentially the best option out there. But for me, not right now.
Yeah, it's definitely the one that I like the most, but it's not what I use. And again, having the backup is key. So you could go into it if you knew how to capture everything in real time on the audio recorder, and then you'd have the benefit of taking, the backup would be the guest coming basically across the web, and Zencastr would be your primary because you're getting double ender, which is just it's recording. It's in the browser and it's recording locally to their computer. Yours is recording to your computer. So it takes the internet out of the equation. So even if you guys have some kind of weird sound going on, which is what a lot of people experience with Skype, because it hops all around the web and different things happen to the audio. And when people step on each other, when you talk over it, it does not like that at all. And so these are a lot of the times the issues people, experience with Skype. And then Zencastr takes that out of the equation, because even if you hear that, you're not getting that in the recording.
And the thing you have to keep in mind, the thing I loved about Zencastr was it was the first one I saw that you could record in a WAV format. And I was like, all right, now we're talking. This is all right, high quality. But the thing I lucked out because I had somebody who had a pretty hard out, and I had them for an hour, but they're like, if we're not done by this time, I'm like, oh, I won't even use half that time. And luckily I interviewed them for 40 minutes, and then we were recording in WAV. It took them 20 minutes to upload the WAV file when they were done. And they're like, because they can't close their machine he's like, I got to leave. And I'm like, it's almost done. It says 98%.
And I feel like every time I get an email on the iteration that these are all things they're addressing. So I hope that they stick around long enough. That's the thing with these services, right? Let me pull up who said, let me see, hold on. Jeffrey Holbrook, who's in the chat. Thanks, Jeffrey. He said he has started a show with a guy from Australia who he met on Blab, RIP Blab. Right? It was a great system. Didn't make it, didn't last. That's partly because the CO just killed it, even though it was doing good. But they now do Skype, Wirecast, live video to YouTube, and records locally from an AT2005 and an H5. So pretty complex setup there. But Blab, these systems, they don't always stick around. So I'm hoping that Zencastr, being something like premium, Dave will tell you that free is a bad business model. Hopefully they'll stick around and give them that time to fix it, because it has been years now. And here we are still talking about how, yeah, but something needs to be fixed. Now, I feel like we're getting a little controversial. This topic just sets people off, man. Is like, Skype, really? Are you kidding me? You've just offended my my core
Sounds like
being.
Star Wars fans. That's what it sounds like. That's
Podcaster
exactly what
has its own
Yeah, yeah.
controversies. Well, we got Mark who joined us. Welcome, Mark, to the roundtable.
Hey, call me Fletch. How are you?
Fletch. I'll try to remember. It's hard. It's a lot of names. We're good. What's your show, Mark? Oh, Fletch. Sorry.
So I podcast. I do corporate podcasting for Avaya telecommunications company, and I started podcasting about 6-7 years ago internally. So I do a lot of internal content, external customer facing stuff. It's great because I've got a whole marketing team that writes all my stuff, and I just have to produce the content.
Well, you said you have when in the email, you said you have your own system for bringing in remote guests in Skype.
Well,
I mean, not Skype, but remote guests.
So Avaya is a communications company. So we have hosted voice over IP systems, and we have a product that we developed called Zang, Z-A-N-G. And it's just getting launched out now. It's a great business collaboration type environment. And we've got them to add 722 wideband audio. So now we can bring in guests. It's kind of like Hangouts. I send you a link. You come in, very similar to this, video, audio, whatever, and it's good quality HD 722.
Now I think when you were in the chat, you were hanging out in the chat before you got here, and this whole conversation about HD audio, I'm not sure that went over very well. What do you got for us on that phone and HD audio and all that stuff?
So here's the thing. When you talk on the phone, if you're on a landline, you got 64K bandwidth. If you're talking on a cell phone, it's probably compressed at some point. If you have LTE and you have wideband HD audio, so different carriers support different things. T-Mobile to T-Mobile. I think Verizon might have something as well. Now your voice is actually a voice over IP data packet. So you can get that higher codec, whatever they happen to use, and you get that high definition, high quality.
So is that, I mean, we can call a phone and get Skype quality without using Skype app? Is that kind of what's going on there? Depending.
Well, here's the thing, phone to phone. Now, how do you bring that into your DAW, right?
So what if I use Skype to call phone? Because this is the traditional way. Say if you have to bring people into the phone, you can dial people using Skype.
Yeah. So when I use Zang and I record remote guests, we have it tied into a conference bridge. And if you're coming into that conference bridge on a clean quality line, I'm going to get you at decent quality into my software client. But again, if you come in crappy, you're going to be good, high quality crappy.
Nice. And now let's see, Ryan Muniak, hopefully I'm saying that right. He said he's used Skype, Blog Talk Radio, which a lot of people who responded mentioned at some point they used Blog Talk Radio. The theme that I saw was that at some point everyone tried it. That's not what they're using anymore. So we have a history of Blog Talk, but I know they're trying. It could be good now. I know Dave would know, but
a new kid on the block as far as recording interviews is Anchor. You remember the
yes, my favorite app that I never use.
Yeah, exactly, that app that started with short form audio. I don't know if there's a time limit anymore when you record audio on Anchor, but they have something that's really cool. Disappointingly low audio quality though, and that is that from the Anchor app, and this is as of version 2.2, I believe. From the Anchor app, you can call a phone number and it will record both sides of the conversation. Unfortunately, it puts both sides together in the same channel, and both sides are recorded at phone call quality.
Yeah, it's sort of a non-starter for me, but it's encouraging because they're starting something, right? So who knows? Hopefully they'll iterate and get better. That reminds me of something. Who is anyone here use Ringer?
Yes.
Okay, so my problem with Ringer, and I haven't really used it, is that doesn't it require the end user, the person who's trying to make things easy for, to download an app?
No.
This is good news.
Well, on a mobile device, doesn't it require that?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, if because there's Ringer app on your phone.
Sure.
And then there's also a ringer, because this is what bit me in the butt. There's also a ringer that you can use with a browser.
That's WebRTC.
Right. And
Yeah.
so, but it does the same thing. It records it locally and then uploads it to, in this case, it works like everything else. My problem, because I was on the My Worst Interview Ever show, and I was using the browser-based one, and unfortunately, it ended up using the audio from my camera, not my microphone.
So that was browser based on your computer.
On my
saying.
computer, yeah.
Yeah, the browser based on the phone doesn't work with iPhones. They have to have the app.
Yeah, you have to
It
have.
may work with some Android devices.
Yep.
And anything that's browser based, unless it's really well designed, you run into that problem of the microphone selection. And that's the same thing. Like it happened all the time on Blab for a while, that people would join and they're using their own microphone, and you'd have to go change your microphone setting, restart, or refresh the browser page. That's a problem that takes quite a bit of coding. Some people have worked around it, like Cast, I believe, and maybe Zencaster have worked around that, but not yet Ringer.
I think if I used Ringer all the time, I would just keep it super simple and use my phone, because it doesn't really sound that bad.
But in that case, you have to tell your guests, download this app.
Yeah.
I mean,
Which isn't that? I mean, it's if they download it, I think all you need is their email address, and when they open up the email, clicks on that, launches the app, and that's it. You're off to the races, and then it's already recording it on both ends. I think out of all of them, the one that has the easiest interface is Cast, because when you log in, it says pick a microphone, and you go okay, and it says pick your speakers, and you do that, and you're done. What none of them do, which I still. It's probably technology, is none of them have a good idea of letting you know where your actual audio levels are. They all have little blinking lights and things like that, but
not even no one. It's so hard to find someone who does this well. Not Google Hangouts on Air that I'm using right now. It's got an audio meter, but I can't really tell. Yeah. I mean, I love BossJock, and this isn't, we can't use BossJock to do remote recording. I don't think they keep it. It's a great app. The audio meters are terrible. Like, good audio meters are they're like the holy grail. You got to know where your audio's at.
Yeah, when I asked Cast, I go, how do you adjust the volume level if somebody's too loud? And they said, back away from the mic.
You know what I will say, though? Skype is actually pretty good. And for me, 75% on the audio meter is golden. Yeah. I don't know about, what do you guys, everyone here has used Skype. When you guys are recording remote guests, Mike, if you're not using it to record, but you are getting audio back and forth, do you pay attention to the audio meter? Do you have a setting you like?
I tried to, but I can't remember. Just as long as it didn't go too high and it didn't get sound distorted. That's kind of what back in the day when I was doing it with Skype and I used that was kind of like, if it sounded really distorted or something, I was like, all right, we gotta work on this. But Skype would always be a problem anyway. It would so it was hard to even gauge that, because there was so much background noise with someone in the background or something like that. So it was like, I just kind of winged it back in the day when we were doing it. And I used to use a program called Avere, and that worked well. And then, as Skype always updates everything, Avere wouldn't work well, because I remember there was one time we had an interview and I was talking over someone when I shouldn't have been talking over someone, and then it was a disaster. So that's pretty much when I walked away from Skype. But I always gauged it. If you sounded distorted or something didn't sound quite right, I kind of just tried to fix it best I could.
Did Skype recently change hands? Like, again, I feel like it's done it a couple times.
No, it's still owned by Microsoft.
Here's a weird thing. Every time, so I rely on, for a lot of things, I rely on the Skype test call system, right? You call the lady, the British accent, and you can test stuff. It's terrible every time in terms of what I'm sending good audio. It always was good. And what I get back is so
it's horrible. Yeah.
Garbled. Something has changed. But anyways, I know Skype has gone through a lot of different iterations with Microsoft and whatever. So I don't know. Scott, how are you getting levels? How are you judging your levels when you're recording a remote?
Okay. Lately we've just been using, recording right into Audacity. So it's very easy for me to see the level right there.
Let me ask how you're doing that, because some people will be like, how do I do that? Audacity's free. How are you making that happen?
I don't know. I thought it was going to be a big deal, and my co-host and I were going to do double-in recording, and we tried that, and I thought it was going to be really cool. And on my end, I picked up both voices clear as a bell, and that's the way we've been doing it. And it's not double-in recording, so it makes it a little bit more difficult, but as long as the person on the other end has a little bit of discipline and not doing like 200 mouse clicks while I'm talking, not that that's happened, but if you're able to achieve that, then it's pretty good quality, and that's what we've been using ever since.
You can play around with multiple soundboards and kind of feed the board into itself if you've got a mixer board, and then you can actually segregate your callers. I did a really complex show years ago where I actually did that, and I actually had separate volume pot for each caller, so I could make in-call adjustments, watch it in a multi-track recording environment. But again, too much of a hassle for really what you got out of it.
What I'm doing with my show, it's for my Once Upon a Time podcast. That's the only podcast where I have multiple remote co-hosts. We're doing a multi-ender. They're each recording either into GarageBand or into Audacity, and most of them have either the well, not most of them. There are three of them. They have either the Audio-Technica ATR 2100 USB or the Samsung Q2U. And with those microphones, you almost don't have to worry about being too loud. You can't be too loud with those microphones almost. They're recording into Audacity or GarageBand. They upload, or I've taught them how to export a wave from that. They upload that to Dropbox, and then our editor puts it together. But on my side, I also record a backup, and I've got a mixer. I'm doing live streaming, live production as well. So they need to be able to hear the sound clips that I play. I have that all rigged up so that everyone's voices go out to live, and the sounds go out to the live, to the my co-hosts. And on my side, I record my in-studio voice on one side of a stereo track, and then I record my remote guest or participant on the other side of the stereo track as a backup. That also helps to synchronize their voice. So when we get their audio track from them, we can synchronize it, align it then with our copy of it.
So there's an important factor here that, in the title, we're talking about remote guests and or co-hosts, but a double ender, you can hear what Daniel said. He's trained people to upload a wave file and how to do these things. That doesn't work so much with a guest. So double enders are something that are very easy to do with co-hosts because you can work with them. It's repeatable. You're there every week or whatever your schedule is. Asking a remote guest to do that is not that great. Now, I use at work all the time Skype with Call Recorder on a Mac. Call Recorder is really awesome in that it splits the channel. These are the things that you want in a Skype recorder, right? Is a good audio meter would be nice. I think Call Recorder does that pretty well. And splitting the channel so that you can have two separate tracks, yourself and the remote person on their own track that you can put into post-production and edit separately. Because as Scott's infamous mouse clicks, if that's happening and it's in a mixed stereo track, you're not going to be able to take that out. So you definitely want that. And that works great on a Mac. And then, sadly, I think I still have to recommend Pamela for Windows. What is going on with Skype recorders in Windows? Who can give me a better?
Well, I think the better way, if you're going to record software, the better way on Mac is Audio Hijack or Loopback. They're both made by Rogue Amoeba.
So yes and no, because I love Audio Hijack, but Audio Hijack is for the people who want to dig in deeper, I think. And Call Recorder is dead simple. I mean, you can make it automatically record.
The reason I say Audio Hijack instead of Call Recorder, and on the Windows side, it would be Voice Meter. That's with a couple extra E's in it or so. The reason I would recommend that instead of a Skype recorder is because, as we've already brought up in this conversation, Skype breaks things quite often. And the other thing is, these are Skype recorders, most of them. But Audio Hijack and Voice Meter are both universal recorders. So if you're doing a Hangout, if you're doing whatever latest service, or if you're doing FaceTime audio through your computer or anything like that, it can record regardless of what it is. And that's what I like, because then it's a standalone and you're not relying on it being compatible with the latest update to that particular app.
Yeah, I agree. But if you want to do video, Call Recorder kicks butt. I just did a whole series of videos for the Call Recorder. Splits the video channel. It's amazing. Quick pop quiz for Mike. If Daniel's studio was a lightsaber, who would it be?
Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan. Yeah, I'd go with Obi-Wan.
It's a big, bright studio. If your studio was a lightsaber, who would it be, Mike?
Probably Darth Vader.
Not Yoda? Isn't it green back there?
Well, it's green right now, but I would.
Oh, that's what I meant. I was basing it on the color that we're putting.
Yeah. Right now it's Yoda. Yes. Oh, see, Luke. Actually, I would go with Luke. Luke is my favorite, so I'll go with Luke.
My daughter has a lightsaber, like a Yoda lightsaber. It's tiny. It's awesome, but it's green.
Yeah.
It's the only reason I know that. But all right, that was fun. What else, you guys? Who else is recording? Anyone recording or have tried anything different than the things we've already mentioned?
I've used Zoom. .us, but not for the recording. Their audio recordings are horrendous.
Yeah, it's webinar quality, which is always so bad.
But I like it because it's fairly easy to connect people. I'd take that back actually, because they have to download a file and then double click on it, and they have to the file they're downloading is an exe file, which usually throws off everybody's virus protection. But once they're in, it usually sounds pretty good. And again, I don't know that I've ever had the whole Bugs Bunny on Poison experience of Skype where that thing's going on. And then I just record that connection into a portable recorder and I'm good to go. Now I don't get, if I wanted to, I could separate it into channels on my mixer, but I usually just have somebody tell me what they had for breakfast, set their levels and go.
When it comes,
you guys are doing a lot of post-production, and I don't know how you find time for all that. You
might don't watch TV.
we addressed that in the lead up. It's called No Sleep.
Yeah.
Hashtag podcasters.
I'm all about being lazy and automating it as much as possible and finding the, I hate to use the term minimal viable product because I'm all about quality. But you got to find good quality. That's a minimal viable product. And WebRTC, I think, is the answer to it because it's a plugin on a Chrome browser or most other browsers. It'll recognize the audio hardware, let the user select that. No downloads, not a big deal. You get wideband audio. It's like this, right? This is probably WebRTC.
Yeah, that's the direction to go, certainly. But Apple doesn't support it at all in Safari on the desktop or on Safari on the mobile browsers. And until it's fully adopted, I think we can't really rely on it that much. But that is the direction I'd love to see things go, especially if they can make that microphone selection easier on the browser side.
That's just programming. So our guys, when they built the Zang application, the first thing we noticed was, oh my God, what microphone is being selected? Mm-hmm. And we finally figured out it was whatever you had on an Apple. It was whatever you had set for your default in system preferences. That's what it used. That was like, hey guys, you need to fix this. Oh, okay. Next release, bang, we had a little control panel. Select the mic you want to use.
And explain WebRTC for anyone.
So WebRTC is just a protocol that's used to transport multimedia, video, voice, whatever, over the internet. And it does it using a codec that's wideband. So it's using a wide phone channel. You go back to the old radio station days. The way they used to do remotes was over dual phone lines. So 2 phone calls from the remote to the radio station, 64K on each phone line. They bond them together basically into 128K width channel. Wider the channel, the better quality.
And Stargate Pioneer SP in the chat says no sleep podcasters.club is going for $4.99. So I think he's buying it up. Although Jeffrey makes good points, that's probably about what it's worth. But he has a good question. SP has a good question. He says, how do you prep your guests to maximize their audio? This is always kind of tricky one because you have differing levels of nerdiness. I don't know what to say, like tech ability, right? For your guest. I mean, most of our shows are not podcasts about podcasting. We're not always calling other podcasters. I'm fortunate with this show. Everyone who comes on here, in the pre-email, I say, use your best mic or audio available, which always makes me nervous because I always worry that people, I literally mean, if you have anything but an onboard microphone, please use it. We've had some of the best podcasters with some of the best setups come on and use their onboard microphone. You know who I'm talking about. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? What are you doing right now? So it's super simple, but most people are bringing in interviewees who might not have that. Now, Daniel, you have co-hosts, so it's not guests for Once Upon a Time, right?
Well, I have interviewed a couple of the cast members from Once Upon a Time.
And you can't these are people, you have to make this super easy for them, right?
Yeah, so my approach, first perspective is my audio needs to sound the best it can. And if my audio sounds good, then whatever audio I get from the guest, as long as they can be heard and understood, whatever quality level that is fine. If it's telephone level quality, you can still hear and understand them. It's not the best, yeah, but you can still get the message from them. So if we have to connect through a phone, we do that. But what I would do is I say, if we can connect with Skype, since that's the most popular voice over IP system, I'd say, let's use that. If not Skype, I'll call you on a phone and make it super simple. I don't ask them to record or anything like that. And then for ensuring I get the best audio quality from them, I just say, make sure there's nothing noisy in the background. Make sure you're wearing headphones. Make sure you're close to the microphone. That's simple.
Yeah, I put together a document, all the do's and don'ts, how to deal with plosives, how to, if you're thinking about calling in on a cell phone, have a nice day. I'm not doing it. But I've got the luxury of saying, I'm doing you a favor by inviting you as a guest. If you're going to be part of my production, you need to meet my quality standards. And if you're on a crappy headset that sounds like this, have a nice day. I mean, I did it to someone just the other day. Go find something that works, or I'll find another guest. Got to be hard-nosed.
Well, I just know anytime I've had two people that have had crappy headsets, and you spend hours pulling out the plosives later if you really want to send that out to your audience, and that's where you learn to, as much as he sounds like he's playing hardball, it's like, no, you're the person between you and your audience that is going to ensure that quality gets to them, and this person's trying to serve up something that's not quality. So it's your job to be the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
What about? Oh, go ahead, Mark.
No, I said absolutely. You've got to take a hard nose, and if you're going to put out a quality product, you have to have standards, and that's all it is.
What about the whole? This used to be one we did all the time. Plug into Ethernet versus Wi-Fi. Do we still prep your guests that way? Do you not care?
Yeah, it depends.
Wi-Fi is so good these days, and many devices now you can't hardline into the network. So as long as they're close to the Wi-Fi network,
I still will put it in there, and if they as sort of a completely do your best, but if you can't, seriously, don't stress about it.
Right. Yeah, Kim from Toastmasters101.net, she has a thing where if she has somebody who's not very techie, she'll have them download Skype on their phone and then connect over Wi-Fi and use Skype that way. And she gets really good results with that.
And that's one of those things too. Like if you could always ask, hey, are you on an iPhone? Right. And you could do FaceTime, right? You could connect via FaceTime. There's a way you could do that from your desktop and record it to someone's phone. That's always that can be a nice connection.
That could be definitely nicer than if they're using their laptop with the built-in microphone where they're far away from it. Maybe they don't have headphones, and so you're getting an audio loop going. But using the microphone built into the phone, it's a fantastic microphone, and it is better than the headset. So if you have someone with the Apple earbuds, for one thing, there's that problem where it's rubbing around on their shirt, and they don't know that. They don't know what kind of noise it's making.
Yeah, especially with long hair. It's going to get
the microphone itself, it's better audio quality in the phone than in those headsets. And I've tested it multiple times.
That said, having a headset, because here's the thing too, also prepping your guest for the wear headphones so you don't get the audio bleed back into the speakers. That one could be nice. So if you have a headset, it's sometimes nice. Now, if you're on a phone, you're holding it to your ear, it's not a problem. It's not blaring out. But, Scott, if you're working with a co-host, you don't have to prep a guest, right? But do you have any best practices that you guys make sure to do when you connect, or is it just get on however?
Well, before we do the interview, we will email them a document we came up with, and we say something like, we don't want to insult your intelligence, but we realize everyone has different levels of audio expertise. And we came up with a list with the most important at the top. And this is to make you sound better. And the first, of course, is use either earbuds or headphones to prevent feedback. Any external microphone is going to sound better than your internal microphone. That's important. Think about the room you're actually doing this in. Is it your dining room? It's going to provide a lot of feedback, or maybe your bedroom with bedding and curtains and carpet that's going to make you sound less like you're in a tunnel. And no matter how good your external microphone is, it will not only pick up, your microphone will not only pick up human voices, it will also pick up your dog barking right next to you. They don't make a microphone that good, not just yet. And be careful of any noise that you're making, like mouse clicking or typing.
Rustling papers.
Right. And your chair squeaking, this type of thing. If it squeaks once or twice during the interview, it's no problem. But if it squeaks 500 times, then the listener is going to start to think, what is that? And they're not going to pay attention to what you're saying. So we always email that to them. And it usually helps. It's been a long time since we've had a interviewee that's used their internal microphone and headphones.
Yeah, and I mean, that's always a challenge on this podcast because everyone that's on the roundtable outside of me is in a mixed channel. You can't separate that out. So again, another situation where I'm super fortunate that we're talking to podcasters, and most people, they get it. They know, try not to step on each other. They know to try to be quiet. Some people mute themselves when they're not talking. But that can be a real challenge for people who are not used to being on a microphone. Even here, this show, oftentimes when we bring a new roundtabler on, it's the first time they've ever used the system. So it's all foreign. I mean, even people who do this regularly, they record. It can be foreign. So it can be very tricky. So it is definitely good to have like a pre-formatted list of best practices. And I like that approach. Say, not to insult your intelligence, but here's just some best practices. Stuff we've learned from doing this every week, right?
Right.
And it's not just always technical as well. I mean, I put on my list that I've created and modified over the years, jot down the questions if you've got them ahead of time and notes on how you're going to answer. Keep a glass of water next to you. One that I added just a couple of weeks ago, put a sign outside the door. Hey, I'm recording. I don't want to hear that in the middle of my interview. So, again, it's just things that you learn along the way, but it's not always technical. There's the simple things. Keep it simple, stupid.
Keep the cat outside.
Definitely. So Martin jumped in to join us. I don't know, Martin, you might have to unmute yourself. So go ahead and unmute yourself if you are there, and we'll get some of your input. But yeah, I mean, anything else when it comes to bringing, we've covered a lot of services. I mean, what would be, go ahead, Dave.
One thing that just came out today, Ringer will now, you can get a USB to Lightning,
right?
Better known as a camera kit. You can now use a camera kit with Ringer. So if you want to plug a 2100 into this, that just came out today, and they now offer, it's $15 a month versus $20 if you buy a year in advance.
Yeah. So if you're giving advice to a podcaster and you're saying who's starting a show and they want to do interviews because they've listened to so many marketing podcasts who tell them that's what they should be doing. They want to be they want to do interviews on fire.
Right.
Running joke here. And what are you going to say? Hey, what's the best way to go ahead and approach that? For recording remote, I would say guest. I won't even go co-host, because co-host is a different situation because you can work with them more. Daniel, you're a person who gives podcast advice. You have to jump in here.
Make it as simple as possible. Really, I mean,
but they don't know how to do that. So what are you gonna start them off on? You're gonna tell them to go to Skype, right?
Yeah, go to Skype. If that's not available, let's do a phone call. I know it doesn't sound as good, but I'd so much rather not inconvenience them. And I understand that giving them a checklist. Some podcaster gave me a checklist, like a guide of do these things before you record. And they even sent it to me. They said, I know you probably don't need any of this. then why'd you send it? But it was 2 pages long of stuff.
Yeah,
I didn't
think
even bother reading it. Sorry, podcaster. I know how to get good audio. For your guests as well, don't overwhelm them. Their time is extremely valuable. They're doing you a service. Yes, you might be doing them a favor too, maybe, but they're really doing you more of a favor. So as much as possible, make it easy for them.
Yeah, and I think that's very important, because I'll tell you what, the emails that I answer almost immediately are short emails. And I get it. Sometimes the question is hard to boil down, but man, long emails just keep getting pushed back. I'll answer them, but they really get pushed back. So in a case like this, I mean, you can see, like, if you're going to give people some tips, boil it down to the most important things you need, and think about the things that maybe you can rehab when you get on the line, right? I mean, if you have to talk to them about being too close to their microphone, maybe that's something you can do once you're on the actual call, right? Say, hey, can you just back up a couple feet, right? You don't have to have the full mic technique instructions in your email. So
My list, I have 6 do's and 5 don'ts. My number 1 don't is don't breathe heavily into the phone. Just best Darth Vader impression.
unless you're on Mike's Cantina Cast, and then it's
No, don't
completely
do that.
appropriate.
Don't do that either. My co-host does that, and it drives me absolutely crazy. Exactly. Oh, it drives me crazy.
What's worse, if he's Darth Vader and out of breath, or if every sentence is phrased as a Yoda phrase?
Well, because he talks and he talks, and then you hear the in between him talking, and he's got these life-changing thoughts about Star Wars, and he has this breath that I have to edit out every 5-10 seconds. It's crazy, but that's the breathing thing drives me crazy.
Martin, what's your show?
Yes, my show is called Ego Netcast.
And do you have remote guest or co-host, or both?
I have mostly remote show guests.
Guests. So how are you bringing those into your podcast?
Yeah, that's why I have now. It's middle of the night, and so excuse me for a bit late.
Where are you?
And
where
also,
are you? I got to know that first, because we're keeping the international theme alive. All of a sudden,
Gothenburg, Sweden.
Ah, it's amazing.
Holy cow.
It's amazing. See?
But I'm American in spirit, so yeah.
Well,
but it's
you know
like
what? I
2
think
in
I'd
the
rather be
morning or something
Swedish
like
in
that.
spirit these
Right.
days. But
Going back to the no sleep theme.
Yeah, I agree with you in some way, but that we could have you could be a guest on my show and we could talk about that. I have a segment about that, talking about that. Yeah, and that's why I have now I'm sitting here, and I woke up and had to bring my cup of tea, so I could have a good voice and also keep alert. But so I use Ringer, and as you said here, the guy working at Libsyn now. It's now I'm forgetting names, but
Dave.
Rob.
Hi, Dave.
Oh, Dave.
we
I thought you were
got-
talking about Rob,
yeah,
because Rob
Dave.
always talks about Ringer.
Yeah, and that's how I learned about Ringer. So I thank Libsyn about that, and they had this Libsyn, how would you say, rock and roll Libsyn, and I mentioned the technique and the equipment I used. So I've used that. I sent you back in the day, 2006, a guy in Australia that did it, SolidWorks, and then Blog Talk Radio, and then call recorder on Skype, and then I found out Ringer through Libsyn because they mention it on the feed.
So how do you find that experience do people have to download an app, or how are you generally using Ringer with other people?
Right now I'm sitting here in my home studio holding the phone, using an iPhone.
Sure,
because I didn't have time to rig up my
right. But when you
selfie stick and so on.
When you use Ringer, do the people who you're using Ringer with, do they have to download an app to the phone, or do they go in a browser? How does that work?
They could, and that's what I will now. We talk back and forth, and we're very friendly at ringing, helping if something is happening with technology. And the announcement they sent out, it was something about the echoing and updating the iOS and so on. And now you could plug in your Lightning microphone also. But usually I think some people who are not used to it, and talking about instructions, I send a link to my interview and I send that they will get instructions. But you could always hear also sometimes that they are not use it, because it could take some time before they log on, so to speak, because they get an invitation through email. And then lately I've heard that they are mainly on the web, because they are sitting at the computer, they open the email and then they click. So that's working fine also. But if I have plugged in some fancy gear, that could maybe have some effect, but it should work on web browser, web-based, and on the app. But personally, I'm using the app and send the invitation, and then you see this clock ticking 3, 2, 1, and then record.
Yeah, cool.
So it's very simple, and you could use, as I'm doing, then headset. Recently, I bought this now, and that's also tipped by Rob at Libsyn, the lavalier mic, that you could put 2 in 1 if you are doing a presentation. But I have a mic, but then I got a bit stressed and I sat here with the iPhone set. But then I found the lavalier mic. So now I have plugged in the lavalier mic, and for monitoring, I put the simple headset. So that I could use with Ringer.
Yeah, that works. And the lav is a good situation. You run into the same issue with the mixed channel, but I mean, again, in a pinch, the dual lavs can work great. So a lot of you mentioned.
The amazing thing with Ringer is, I mean, I could hear something that sounds funny on the other side, so to speak. But the sound quality will be a bit good at the end also. But then it's good that you listen as a monitoring thing. But you shouldn't panic about that, because it often works very fine.
Good advice. Don't panic.
Yeah.
Don't
One
put out
thing
fires.
not
Don't
panic over. I'm not sure if it still works this way, but it did the last time I used it. If you're working with an iPhone that still has the built-in audio port, and then you're so excited that you can now plug in a Lightning microphone via USB or adapter, or maybe it's a Lightning connected microphone. If you plug in an Apple headset or any kind of headset that has both the microphone and headphones in it, if you plug that in while your Lightning microphone is connected, it may switch the microphone over to your headset instead of using your digital microphone. So keep that in mind. If you're doing that kind of thing, you might want a separate pair of headphones that's only headphones to use to connect into your iPhone. That may have been fixed, but it was a problem a year ago.
Yeah. So we've talked, and this is the thing, everyone's got something different, and they all seem to have caveats. There's always usually something you have to work around a little bit. So choose your poison. You know, you can see that this is just like banks and anything else that, cell phone service. Someone loves Verizon, someone hates them. Like, someone's going to have a good experience, someone's going to have a bad experience. So you have to pick what works for you. And again, maybe what works best for your guests and co-hosts. Now we hit on a little bit of Blog Talk Radio. Is there still value? This is a unique, Blog Talk's still doing, and I don't use it, but they had the one unique thing, and we'll go with the resident BTR expert here, which is Dave, where you could have call in from phones, and they have a waiting room, right? So a green room where you can screen these calls and all kinds of crazy stuff. And that was the one value add that I haven't seen anyone else do. Dave, is that something you've used?
I've used Blog Talk Radio. I was excited because at one point they were making it to where, almost like VoIP, you could dial in that, and then you could have your co-host do that. And they, God bless them, they're still trying, cannot get that to be 100% reliable. And I admire the fact that they're not willing to put it out there until it is 100% reliable. But you can use their beta program.
Wait, you're talking about, because they tried to do HD thing. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the HD.
But this is different from the call-in, like the green room thing, right?
Right, the green room thing. So there's that. But if you're paying Blog Talk Radio, I think the cheapest plan over there is $20 or $40, one of the two. You're paying too much for that, because there is an alternative called callinstudio.com, where I think it's $6 for the phone line, and then you only pay for the number of people and how long they're on hold, and you can set how many people are in the queue. Yeah, I use that on Ask the Podcast Coach. It makes things a little more technical, because now you need almost a separate computer to run the calls, run that into your mixer. You're going into a mixer, and then how am I going to stream that now? So now you're going into something like Mixler or Spreaker. So the thing that Blog Talk has is ease of use. The bad news is you're then using their phone lines, and you sound like a phone line. So it's, it's a pros and cons. That's where I always say, to me, if somebody really wants to do a live show, do a Google Hangout or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, hey, this has been awesome. We found a bunch of different ways. Again, pick your poison. Get in touch with anyone here on the roundtable. Let's find out how to do that. Let us know where we can find one of your shows. This is the thing I got to do these days. I got to say one of your shows, because everyone You start a podcast, you start another.
It's your own fault.
Future. It's your
Mr.
fault.
Start a Podcaster too.
Hey, well, I start many, but only one really goes in any kind of regularity. That's this one. You're in the right spot. So, anyways, Mark, thanks so much for joining us on your first roundtable. And where can we find your show?
So the best place to find my stuff is at fletch.tv. It's a URL that I got.
Fletch, yes.
Most of my blogs are there. There's links to my podcasts. If you just Google me, you can pretty much find me.
If I was really good at movie recall, I would come up with several Fletch lines right now, but I'm terrible.
Thank you very little.
Nice. All right, thanks for joining us. We'll just go in order. Co-host Daniel J. Lewis, thanks for joining us once again.
Thank you for having me. And I want to give one last tip. If you want to be an awesome guest to someone else, record your own standalone audio and send it to them, because they might love it having crystal clear audio from you. I'm Daniel J. Lewis from theaudacitytopodcast.com.
Yeah, that's something. Now, here we are. We're podcasters. We're usually set up to record our own audio. I always offer that. And in fact, I do it just to have it. And I say, hey, do you want this? Throw it in Dropbox, whatever. So yeah, it's a good tip. If you are set up to do it, why not? And you might rescue an interview one day, right? I mean, like people, they crashed and they lost, and you're like, I got it. Sometimes I'll record their side as a total backup, and they don't even know it. And I save the day, man.
Too. Yeah, I come to save the day.
There you go. Dave Jackson, co-host extraordinaire. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, Dave Jackson. You can find me at schoolofpodcasting.com. My one tip that we just need to say again, always have 2 recordings going. Always have a backup.
Yeah, it is going to be your best tip. Build some redundancy in there. It's going to save you. It's going to save the day.
Yeah. You'll thank me later.
Yeah, definitely. I thank you now, Dave. Thanks for joining us. Martin, thanks for joining us. Got here at the end, but awesome.
Thanks.
Great to get you in here. Where's your show?
Much. So, yeah, as my cap is saying, it's Ego Netcast. So Ego, I am in Latin, Netcast.
.com?
.com, yeah. I have one in the show but that's in Swedish, Produktivitet, so that could be a bit hard for you to listen to. But
hey,
yeah, Ego
international
Netcast.
audience. I'm sure we have some fellow Swedes that listen to the show, so go check it out. It's a great way to share shows. I wish to do that more.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining us so much. I didn't call you Ryan this time.
No, that's okay. You can change my name anytime. I'm before the Jedi Council of Podcasters, so you can call me whatever you want. So that's fine with me.
It's your Jedi name. We've changed it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that goes. You can check us out, thecantinacast.com. That's where you'll find us. That's the easiest way, I guess you could say. And you can find us anywhere where you can download a podcast.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much. And Scott, thanks for jumping in and sharing with us how you're bringing in co-hosts and guests.
Well, thanks for having me. And I got to tell you, Daniel, Dave, Ray, and along with SP and Steven, I think it's on chat. You guys have made our podcast so much better. And it's just a pleasure to be with you on tonight. I'm on the Recovering from Religion podcast, and you can go to recoveringfromreligion.org and check out all of our resources. Our hotline number is 1-84-I-DOUBT-IT. And as far as how else to find us, we're on iTunes, iHeartRadio. We'll put on 8-track tape if that's for you. For additional fee, my co-host Emily will actually call you up at home, read you a transcript of the podcast while smooth jazz is in the background. Again, that's additional charge. And if you have questions or comments about the podcast itself, any questions, comments, or death threats, you can email us at podcast@recoveringfromreligion.org.
Awesome. That is a Patreon reward level that I had not thought of. I'm putting it in. I'm going to go adjust it right now. Several mouse clicks and we're there. I love that a lot. And yeah, I mean, can't beat that endorsement. If you want to write that up in a review, Podcasters Roundtable, look that up. Go to iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts, type in a review. That would be awesome. Because I really, seriously, that is flattering as all get out. Thanks so much for everybody. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, podcastersroundtable.com/guest will get you on here at some point. You can share all your podcasting tips because we know most of you don't have a podcast about podcasting. This is the place to share that geekery. So podcastersroundtable.com. We will see you for 92 in a couple weeks. Wave goodbye. Thanks, everybody.